Once upon a time, in the busy land of Globalville, lived the little orange tyrant, ruler of Tradewindia, a place of bustling markets and flowing goods. Loud and boastful, with a complicated, urine colored golden mane, he loved shouting about his power over trade. His favorite trick was crying, "Tariff!" Whenever he felt grumpy or ignored, he'd hop on his little soapbox and yell, "Tariff! I'll tax your goods sky high." The merchants of Globalville, from Silkland, Iron Haven, and Tea Grove, would panic, fearing their trade would dry up. They'd send gifts and beg, and the tyrant, smirking, would take their offerings and drop the threat. First, he cried tariff when Silkland's fabrics shone brighter than Tradewindia's. They sent gifts, and then no tariffs came. Then, when Ironhaven's tools filled his shops, he shouted, "Tariff!" again. They sent free tools, no tariffs followed. He did the same thing with Tea Groves, Teas, and others, always bluffing. Soon, Globalville's merchants whispered, "He's all talk." One day, in a foul mood, the tyrant bellowed, "Tariff! This time I'll tax everyone. Silkland, Ironhaven, Tea Grove, pay up or your goods will rot." But the merchants didn't budge. Wait, my thing didn't work. Oh, that's not it. Here, wait. But the merchants didn't budge. Okay. So obviously, you guys know that little parable is about tariffs. There's more to come with that. Just stay tuned. We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into the bribey, grifty reality that is Trumplandia now. Um, so, are you guys ready to get into it? Good. I am. Let's go. Story time. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Happy Friday, you guys. Happy Friday. Let's see. Yeah, we had a lot of stuff that happened this week. Even today seemed like a slow day, but actually, it's just because. So, like, if a day goes by where there's not an earth-shattering scandal, it seems slow by comparison. But actually, this week has been really busy news-wise. A lot of different things happening. You had Trump over in the Middle East. You had the Diddy. I don't know if anybody's watching the Diddy trial. It's um, I have not been watching it every day. I with the snippets that I do hear from it, they are difficult to hear because nobody likes to hear stories of abuse, and they sound very believable. So obviously Diddy hasn't had his moment in court yet. Doesn't look good for him, especially, like people keep saying, oh, you got to wait to hear his side. But what's his side of that video of him dragging and beating her in the hallway? What is his side? There's nothing that changes that. And then that just kind of helps to reinforce the whole idea of him being an abusive monster. So, you know, like I said, I could be wrong, but we shall see. In the meantime, let's check in on our friends here. I see we had Zelda there at the very tippy top. Thank you very much, and welcome to you, Zelda. Valerie G is here. Fox Hill Dreams. Joanne Kennedy is here. Valerie G. Did I say Fox Hill Dreams? Fox Hill Dreams. Cindy C is here. Mama AG. Tracy M, aka Nurse Mitch, Laurie B. Hey, there's Laurie B. and the Resistor family. Jenny Rayner is here. Asmila J, Stella Baxter, welcome you guys. Here's a heads up to you. Blue Lady says she made it here. Welcome. Here's a heads up for next week. Next week, this show will be on Thursday. And it's mainly because this past Friday, the attendance plummeted. I'm not sure what it was, if it was because it was Mother's Day and, people were busy or whatever. But, I'm paying attention to numbers. Maybe it could be my content. Maybe folks are like, you know what? Had enough of BDD. I'm gonna go see what else is on, and that's fine too. But I need to figure out what the hell is going on. So, primarily, the reason that I'm shifting to Thursday next week is because I am attending my cousin's 30th wedding anniversary. So I'm very very excited, looking forward to that. I don't know very many people who have seen the 30th wedding anniversary, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, so let's see. Let's go ahead and jump into our stories of the day.
Stories of the day.
All right. So the main story, is Trump for sale. Trump for sale. You see him there with a price tag of $400 million. That's pretty cheap. It's pretty cheap for a guy who calls himself a billionaire, but he's not so rich that the appearance of being bribable is something so cheap as a $400 million plane. Look, $400 million is nothing to sneeze at for me and for you, because we ain't got it. But for a guy who is supposedly a billionaire, it's not a good look. He's the president of the United States. So we're going to get into the fallout from that. And but first, we have birthright citizenship. The fight over birthright citizenship seems to have tilted a bit in the favor of progressives, of liberals, of people who care about the Constitution, and the right, the right that is embedded in the 14th Amendment. So we shall see how that goes. And James Comey is in the news. You remember him? James Comey? Lordy, there are seashells. James Comey is under fire because of a social media post. Of all people, he is the driest person I have ever seen, period, in real life and on the news. He is dry as hell. But he posted 8647. Those numbers have gotten him in hot water, and we'll discuss why. And last but not least, we have we're going to recap Trump's trip to the Middle East this past week, and we'll talk about what what has arisen from that, and what are the consequences going to be, if any, of his accepting a $400 million bribe jet. And last but not least, the dumbest Trump comment of the week will be covered at the end of the show. If you have not yet done so, please remember to hit the like and subscribe button. You know what time it is. Most of you that are here have already done so. If you guys are watching this on replay, the like button looks like a thumbs up. Subscribe, it's that little box in the lower right-hand corner. Please hook a brother up. Thank you very much. My Substack this week was interesting. It was fun. I took a little stroll down memory lane. Times Square actually used to be like my all-time favorite neighborhood because it was chock full of eye candy, and it still is to this day. Still is. It still is chock full of eye candy. It's not my favorite neighborhood anymore because it's just way too much stimuli, visual stimuli. It's a lot. But back in the day when I was a kid, when I was like, 8, 10, 12, I think I was hanging out in Times Square when I was like 12 years old. And there was a thing called 3-card Monte. 3-card Monte was like a little 3-card game. It looks like this. It looks like 3 cards folded in half the long way, 2 black and 1 red. And you had to keep your eye on the red card. If you kept your eye on the red card and you were able to pick it out, you would win twice whatever you wagered. So if you wagered $50, you'd win 100, and it looked winnable too, because you'd stand around in a circle, a very tight, close circle, and there were people. Everybody there apparently had like been winning a lot of money because everybody there had a knot of cash. But the game was rigged, you guys. It was rigged. And if you didn't know it, you would find out if you tried to win this thing. Nobody wins. Nobody wins. The only person who wins is the person who's running the game and all the people working with him, the people with the knots of cash. And some of them would lose intentionally. Some of them would win. It was all part of the script. You, the sucker, were the loser. And I went through this as kind of like an analogy for what the Trump administration is doing. It's all a scam. And the chaos, the flooding the zone is the stuff that gets you to take your eye off that red card. So check that out if you get a chance. It's on my Substack. Really quick, you guys know I'm a New York Knicks fan. We won some and then we lost some. Tonight, what was it? 2 games ago, the Boston Celtics lost like their main guy. And I think he suffered an Achilles tendon or something like that. Anyway, bad loss for them, but we were not able to capitalize on it. So we're looking at game 6. We are still up 3-2. If the Knicks win, we advance to the next round, to the conference finals. If we lose, we go home. Me personally, I still feel like this. We're playing with house money. I did not expect the Knicks to win any games, let alone 3. Honestly, you guys remember, I could go back to the videotape. I did not expect us to win 1 game. The Celtics are the world champions. They are the NBA champions. So they're the team to beat. And I thought we were going to get swept. So the fact that we're up 3-2 is a miracle. So if we win tonight, that's great. If we lose tonight, we still got game 7 to look forward to. And if we lose game 7, oh well, we gave them our best and we took them to 7 games. So that's saying something. I don't want to lose, but I'm just saying I won't lose. Go New York. Go New York. Go. That's right. Yeah. So hopefully we got a good game. All right. Oh yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into it. Birthright citizenship is the first constitutional issue that Donald Trump chose to attack early on in his administration. He wrote an executive order looking to abolish birthright citizenship. And birthright citizenship is basically the idea that, well, let's I have it here. It's in the 14th Amendment. It says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. That is it. That is what the 14th Amendment says. All persons. It doesn't say all citizens. No, it doesn't say all. It says all persons, period. So Donald Trump is trying to make some kind of argument saying that it's for, it was directed towards the babies of slaves. I think in his Truth Social post, he must have said the babies of slaves like 5 times here. Big case today in the United States Supreme Court. Birthright citizenship was not meant for people taking vacations to become permanent citizens of the United States of America and bringing their families with them all the time, laughing at the suckers that we are. Fun fact, his first wife, Ivana, was not a citizen. No, she was not. And she gave birth to Don Jr., I believe it was 1977, long before she became a citizen. So back then it was okay with him when he was outsourcing that job to immigrants. Okay. Now it's not okay. Huh? I wonder what happened. I wonder what changed. And then at the bottom of this thing here, it says birthright citizenship is about the babies of slaves. As conclusive proof, the Civil War ended in 1865. The bill went to Congress less than a year later. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Yeah, but thankfully, the Supreme Court does. And they heard arguments that discussed specifically the nationwide injunctions that would basically render his executive order null and void. And this is a sticky case because as Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson noted, this case is a catch me if you can kind of thing where only the people who are able to acquire a lawyer, right, will have citizenship, based on, because for instance, 22 states have sued to have countersued against his executive order, and 28 have not. So the people living in those 22 states, they will be citizens. The people who are in the 28 states won't. And what happens when you cross state lines? What happens there? There's so many messy issues that the Supreme Court justices, I got to take my hat off to them. For the most part, they all kind of jumped on that guy with the raspy voice. I forget his name. But they jumped on him and said, what are you even talking about? And half of the time he was answered, we don't really know. We don't know. So he didn't have any answers that the Supreme Court justices were asking for. And now let's fast forward to another discussion of citizenship. And this was the other day. 53 white South Africans were granted refugee status here in America. Now, why is that a big deal? It's a big deal because Donald Trump and most of the MAGA Republican Party made it seem as though we didn't have room for any more refugees. No. Oh, but they have special extenuating circumstances. Why is that, pray tell? Oh, there's a genocide? You said there's a genocide going on there? Bullshit. Bullshit. There's no genocide. They say there's a genocide. Who said that? Somebody, people, they said it. South African court ruled that the claims of white genocide were not real. And there's even white South Africans there who say they don't need to leave South Africa. They don't want to. They don't want to come here to the United States. So this seems like it is just some kind of false flag, for lack of a better term, a false flag to frame some kind of narrative, right? I don't know how much time you guys spend on Twitter, but I spend quite a bit. I spend a lot of time on Twitter, more than I care to admit. And scrolling through, there are two different tabs you can click on. There's a For You tab, and the For You tab are the videos and tweets that Elon means for you to see, specifically wants you to see. And those will tend to be tweets that have nothing to do whatsoever with your particular ideologies. No, there'll be a lot of clickbait stuff in there. There'll be videos that are, I guess, viral, and the kind of videos that draw you in and then have you click down to go into the replies, and then those replies have videos there, and before you know it, you've lost a bunch of time and you don't know why, because you just watched a bunch of garbage. But anyway, there's the For You and there's the following. Following is the people that you follow, your curated feed that you follow. Those are the people that you mess with, that you want to check out their content. But if you click on that For You tab, there's a number of accounts on Twitter that love to frame these videos like this. Watch these two black boys beat up on this white boy, gang up on him, right? This is a problem. And the same theme will be repeated across several different accounts. Same theme. Oh, look at these animals attacking this white person always. And it always makes it seem, I'm watching this, I'm like, holy cow. It makes it seem as though this is an epidemic. This is happening everywhere. Every street corner, every schoolyard, white people are being attacked by black people. Like it's a race war. This is the crap that Elon is trying to force feed people on X. It is disgusting. Anyway, so this South African white genocide thing is part, in my opinion, is part of that whole scam. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. And then Donald Trump was trying to say, it has nothing to do with color. It doesn't have anything to do with color. They just happen to be white. Really? It's that I saw people who needed help. Well, what about the folks from Afghanistan? Let's take Afghanistan just for a second, okay? Afghanistan, there are a bunch of people who have helped our people in our military, right? They were interpreters for members of our military. They risked life and limb and their families' lives to help us. And then when we left, we abandoned them. Those people, those Afghans, those Afghan people are waiting to be rescued, waiting to be brought over here. They're hiding for their lives. They've applied for refugee status, but the works are all gummed up. And now these South African refugees have jumped the line. If I had $1 for every time I heard some MAGA person say, I don't have a problem with immigration as long as you follow the procedures. You do the paperwork, you wait in line like everybody else, you do it the right way. Well, these South African refugees, they didn't wait in line for anybody. They jumped to the front. I wonder why. This thing with James Comey is so stupid. And let me start off by saying, I don't give a shit about no James Comey. I do not give a shit about James Comey. I haven't given a shit about James Comey since he pulled that bullshit in 2016 with the letter about Hillary Clinton days before the election. That was some bullshit. So since then, I couldn't care less about a James Comey. But what I found interesting, I'm paying attention to what happens in the news. What I found interesting was he dropped an innocuous little post on Instagram, right? And at first, I wasn't even sure that he had actually dropped it. It seemed, it kind of seemed out of character for him. He doesn't seem, he has never struck me as a never Trumper. Then he posted this thing on Instagram saying that he found these seashells on the beach and they were in the formation of an 86 and a 47. So, Stella Baxter says his wife and daughters are Democrats. I'm sure they made him suffer. I'd be disappointed if they didn't. So, yeah, he posted that. And the fallout was swift and severe. You had people coming out of the woodwork to denounce this nothing of a post. Well, it had it had one number, 4 digits, or 2 numbers, 2 digits each, 8647. So what right-wing outrageous were saying was that 86 meant that he wanted Donald Trump to be assassinated. Don't mind me, guys. I'm just doing some cleanup here. They were saying that the 86 meant kill. That's what they thought the former FBI director was calling for. Seriously, that guy who, like I said, I'm not a fan of him, but I don't think he's stupid. I don't think he's Donald Trump stupid. And I say that there's a distinction because Donald Trump is stupid in his own class of stupid. Donald Trump is so stupid, he doesn't even know how stupid he is, right? There's no way, this guy was intentionally calling for the assassination of Donald Trump. And Trump himself went on Fox News last night and totally played into that notion. It's like, yeah, that's what he meant. He's going to say he didn't mean it, but that's totally what he meant. And Fox News just went along with it because, that's their business. Their business is is stoking the outrage machine. Yeah, there's a picture of Comey and Trump in, I think, 2016, 2017, whatever it was. It was before he got the boot from Trump. You know. So Jack Posobiec, he came out and said, James Comey, Jack Posobiec, in case you didn't know, I threw his name out there like everybody knew. But Jack Posobiec is a right-wing influencer. He's pretty well known. He said, James Comey should be arrested and sentenced to have to dismantle the FBI building hand by hand. Oh, excuse me. Have to dismantle the FBI building by hand, brick by brick, like the Israelites building the pyramids, but in reverse. Oh, isn't that clever? Isn't that clever? What else did Jack Posobiec have to say? Oops. Oops. January 29th, 2022, he tweeted 8646. Jack, I wonder if this means you think that you should be required to dismantle the FBI building by hand, brick by brick, just like the Israelites did, just in reverse. Is that what you think, Jack? You jackass? So now, because everything is stupid, and everyone is hypocrite, he is now being investigated as the likes of what's her face, not Christine, Tulsi Gabbard said that that's a top priority. That's a priority there to investigate that, because it absolutely appears this is what somebody who wants you to believe she's intelligent said. That it looks like he needs to be investigated, even though in the aftermath, he jumped on social media. He's like, hey, I didn't know that 86 meant assassinate. So, he says, I have nothing to do with violence. I disavow it. I took that post down. He explained himself. I think he apologized and he just took it down. Should be the end of it. But no, they want to waste taxpayer money and investigate because, Republicans got nothing to do but just bullshit and waste our taxpayer funds. So yeah, they got to investigate him. Meanwhile, a little over a year ago, Donald Trump posted a video on his Truth Social feed, seen by millions of people, showing a pickup truck with Joe Biden hogtied and gagged on the back of this pickup truck. Now, if that's not a clear message to incite violence against the president of the United States, I don't know what is. But nothing happened. Nothing happened there. And something happened here that I totally missed. And I'm sorry I wasn't paying attention to this, but my friend Zelda, thank you, Zelda. Thank you so much for the kind donation. Thank you. I appreciate you very much. Very, very much. Thank you. So yeah, nothing happened. Nothing came of this whatsoever. This is where we're living right now. It feels like hell. It's not hell, but it feels like it. And then there's the time when Donald Trump floated the idea of executing Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley. Then there's the time that he threatened Hillary to have her put in front of a firing squad, and the list goes on and on and on. But you want to take this seashell thing and run that into the ground, even after the man was like, "Hey, oops, my bad, sorry, didn't know, took it off." You never once heard Donald Trump say, he apologized. You never hear him apologize for any of these things. I don't know what happened. Somebody put it up. Somebody tweeted it. Somebody, that's you, motherfucker. That's your account. I can't stand it. The guy, they love him because they believe he tells it like it is. But then when he gets in trouble for shit, he's like, I don't know what happened. Somebody did it. It wasn't me. You did it. It was you. So there were some good things that happened this week. This was today. The Supreme Court, in another, the first major loss that he took was a 9-0 decision that said that he had to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia to the United States, which he still hasn't done, but still, that's a loss. 9-0. That means all of his picks voted against him. Here's another one. Another Trump loss in court as a 7-2 Supreme Court decision just blocked Trump from using the Alien Enemies Act to deport a group of Venezuelans. An angel just got a free RV ride somewhere. I say that because two of the dissenting opinions were none other than, well, you know who it was. Let me see if anybody can get. I'm not going to wait. It was Alito and Clarence R.V. Thomas. Indeed. So there's one loss, and another one. This is actually much bigger. This was this morning in committee. Trump's big beautiful bill was defeated by Republicans. Five Republicans said hell no, and they crossed the aisle to vote with Democrats to defeat it in the House Budget Committee. So there's also opposition to his big beautiful bill in the Senate. I mean, I don't know what all these rounds of revisions are going to accomplish. It doesn't look like they're going to get to where they need to get. They have to corral a bunch of different people. Mind you, the people who defected to vote with Democrats today, they were pissed. They voted against it because they didn't think that this bill cut enough from Medicaid. So I'm under no illusions that that their defection was a great thing. You know, it was good in the fact that, you know, this bill took a hit, but you know, if it means that if those five people are going to get out of the way, that means that more cuts must be made from Medicaid. And so I don't know what's going to happen, but we can't afford to let Medicaid get cut. That will be disastrous for millions of Americans. And you know, I am not on Medicaid right now, but I have been in my life when I was a kid. In fact, when I was very young, I was 4 or 5. I had asthma, and my mom was going to school to be a nurse, and she was a single mom, so we were on welfare, and Medicaid helped pay for that time that I had an asthma attack that was so bad, the ambulance had to come and get me, and they was taken to the hospital, and they gave me, you know, the medication that I needed, aminophylline, Alupent, Theodore, all that stuff, the pump and the, you know, the needles and all that stuff that I needed to get better. And without that, I could have died. It's that simple. And so, you know, after a few years, my mother finished school, finished nursing school, became a nurse, and then got her insurance through her job. It was $11.99. And though any of you have friends or relatives who are nurses, know that $11.99 it's a pretty awesome. It's like you want for nothing. You know that $11.99 pays for just about everything. So, um, but yeah, that's for a lot of people, a lot of families. Medicaid is the difference between life and death, and these Republicans, they want to cut Medicare, excuse me, they want to cut Medicaid so that they can buy an extra luxury yacht, so that they can buy themselves a goddamn fancy RV. Um, we can't let it happen. So talk to your members of Congress, call your representative, call your senators, let them know. Do not cut Medicaid. Period. Hands off. All right. And now Donald Trump is spinning. That dude is just out of his fucking mind. He's tweeting things like, "Has anyone noticed that since I said I hate Taylor Swift, she's no longer hot?" Who tweets this stuff? Who? If Joe Biden woke up one day and started tweeting some stuff like that about Taylor Swift, you know, or about Bruce Springsteen, instead of focusing on, the important issues, the issues of bringing prices down and creating jobs and all the stuff, and working on infrastructure, all the stuff we expect our presidents to do to protect us, you know, uh, working on arms deals and negotiating peace between two different warring nations. That's the stuff we expect. We don't expect this garbage bullshit, about Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen and all this nonsense uh, distractions. Here's another distraction that I didn't include in my agenda for today. But have you guys heard what they're talking about doing? This was some bullshit that came out from Marjorie Taylor Greene earlier this week, when she said that it's in the cards that Donald Trump would pardon Derek Chauvin. Derek Chauvin, in case you don't recall, is the cop who put his knee on the neck of George Floyd for 9 minutes, resulting in his death. People like to say, "Oh no, he died because of an OD." No, he died because his neck was compressed by that knee for 9 minutes. It's that simple. And people are saying that Donald Trump, first of all, there are state charges against Chauvin that Donald Trump cannot pardon him for. But just the act of pardoning him, let's say for whatever federal charges he was convicted of, the act alone of doing that would not free him, but it would set off a chain reaction in the community, potentially set off a chain reaction that would be so visceral that people might come out and not just protest, but they might riot, that sort of thing. And that's what Donald Trump wants. He wants a riot. He wants a riot, so that will allow him to suspend habeas, what is it? Habeas corpus? Why have I forgotten this term? Um, and that will enable him to become more of an authoritarian, and we don't need this to happen. So if that does happen, folks, you know, uh, resist the urge to go out there and create mayhem. Tell your friends, tell your family, no, don't do it. And even if people go out there and protest peacefully, I can almost guarantee you, if he wants there to be some shit stirred, he'll send people out there with masks, so you won't know if they're progressive or liberal. Could be whoever doing it in our name, throwing Molotov cocktails, and so it'll look like they're part of our crowd, but they really aren't. And I believe that's what happened during those George Floyd protests back in 2020. I think the people who started a lot of those fires and damaged a lot of that property, those were the people that wanted to discredit our movement. So don't give them the opportunity. Let's see. Yeah, this was, I'm not going to read this, but this was Donald Trump's disrespectful tweet about Bruce Springsteen. I see that highly overrated. What? Yeah. He says Bruce Springsteen is highly overrated. I don't want to get off on a tangent about this bullshit, but I just want to point out to you, it's there. If you want to read it, go check it out on the internet. I'm not going to waste another second on that. But let's talk about his trip to the Middle East. This was his first official trip overseas, and it was to the Middle East, and they're making a big deal out of this because they love to normalize this insane person. So he actually went out there just at the same time or a little bit after he was offered that $400 million plane from Qatar. And I'm saying Qatar, but earlier today I was like, why is it so many people pronounce Qatar differently, right? Some people pronounce it gutter or Qatar. I Googled how do the people from Qatar pronounce Qatar, right? And it's actually closer to Qatar. See what I did there? There's a rolling R at the end. Qatar. And the first consonant is like a hard Q in your throat. It's like at the back of it. It's like Qatar. So that's why people say Qatar. Cutter. Anyway, Qatar. And there he is meeting with the guy who ordered the bone saw murder of Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist, and he's in love with Mohammed bin Salman, loves him to death. He couldn't stop. He couldn't stop glazing the man, talking about how handsome he is and how much he loves how much he loves them and all that stuff. The people who funded 9/11, just profusely, it's disgusting. Anyway, that's what he was saying while he was awake. There were certain periods of the day that he could not keep his eyes open. And after this happened, they made sure to only arrange events during the times when he was more likely to be awake. So the funny thing about that Qatar jet, and mind you, the reaction the reaction to the jet was fierce, was swift, and it was fierce. And it wasn't just from people on the left. It wasn't just from liberals and progressives. It was from influencers like Laura Loomer. You remember who Laura Loomer is? She loves her some Trump, and she came out against it. Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is like the guy on the right, in the influencer sphere, came out against this. This is one of those rare moments when left and right kind of align in agreement, and there's some scattered members of the House and some scattered senators who will whisper it quietly because they're afraid of backlash from Trump, but they're also against just the appearance, the impropriety of accepting what can only be seen as a bribe. This is $400 million There's so many different things that $400 million can buy. And I say that because Elon Musk's investigation of the waste, fraud, and abuse thing, so many things that he targeted were far less than 400 million. So $400 million, that's some serious fraud. I would call that fraud. But the joke actually for this thing is on Trump, because that jet, that $400 million jet, is actually. Do you see the picture on the screen there? That's a picture of a Trojan horse. It could end up being a Trojan horse, and when I say Trojan horse, I mean they could be potentially. They could have embedded some listening devices, some tracking devices. They could have rigged it to blow up. They could have rigged, maybe not. They could rigged it to fall apart, because it is a Boeing after all. It is a Boeing, so it could suffer some serious fall apart itis. And also, the joke is on Trump, because this thing was already in need of maintenance. Um, they didn't want to pay storage fees anymore. Requires a much longer runway. There's a whole lot of issues that made this thing like an anchor around their neck, and they're just like, it was more of a money drain than anything else. So they're like, let's give it to Trump. He likes bigger things, so give him the bigger thing. Trump was busy complaining that, "Oh, it's bigger than Air Force One. Everybody has a bigger plane than Air Force One. I just have my little hands and my little plane. I want a bigger." So, so the joke is on him. But then ultimately, sadly, I have to say that the joke is ultimately going to be on us, because despite the fact that it's free, you guys know there's nothing that's free in life. Nothing in life is free. And in order for him to retrofit this thing, to fix it so that he can use it, and he 100% wants to use it, because despite the fact that they're trying to bill this as, oh, this is a gift to the United States. No, it's not, because after he's out of office, that thing is going into his presidential library, and he 100% will be using that. So $1 billion, as Stella Baxter says, of our tax money would be spent to renovate this thing, and then it's his. And he has the audacity to tell us that our kids have to settle for $2 or $3 instead of 30, right? But it's okay for him to get a $400 million plane plus $1 billion in repairs. Make it make sense. You can't. To his credit, Chuck Schumer came out against the jet, and it wasn't one of those. It wasn't one of those sternly worded angry letter. It wasn't that. He came out and he said, "We demand an investigation of this, and we are going to withhold. We're not going to move forward on any Department of Justice approvals until this thing is investigated." Oh, and here's one of those tweets that is aging just like gas station sushi in the hot summer sun. This is a tweet from Donald Trump from 2012, where he was criticizing Obama for accepting foreign donations. What do you know? He says, how many foreign donations will Obama collect this final week? Another scandal ignored by the liberal media. Isn't that interesting? There's always a tweet, ladies and gentlemen, always a tweet. But the real scandal is not this $400 million. It's not this $400 million plane. It's the $5.5 billion beachfront property project that it was just awarded, uh, and Donald Trump and his family are going to reap the benefits of this thing with Qatar. Isn't that interesting? And nobody's talking about it. Hardly anybody is talking about that shit. It drives me nuts. I'm going to skip forward to the movies and TV shows that I plan to be watching this weekend. One that just dropped on Apple TV. It's called Murder Bot, starring Alexander Skarsgård. It's a science fiction about a bot, literally a robot that hacks its own AI, and things happen. Cool things transpire. So I'm a big science fiction buff. So I will be checking this out on Apple TV. This thing I just kind of stumbled onto. It's on Netflix, and I kind of feel like I'm not supposed to like it. It's starring this guy Tom Segura, who is a stand-up comedian, and I believe he had some involvement with Joe Rogan. I think he might have been on Joe Rogan's show, um, friendly with Joe Rogan, whatever. I don't care. It is what it is. There's so many beefs. I can't keep track of these beefs. I have to decide if I'm going to be pissed off with somebody on a, you know, um, on a person by person basis. In any case, this show is legit funny. It's very funny. I've watched 2 or 3 episodes so far. It At times it is very graphic. I will say graphic. Um, Sometimes it's gross. It's got some gross humor, but it is pretty funny. It's called Bad Thoughts, and yeah, it's a skit. It's skit comedy show, I guess. Yeah, very funny. And The Handmaid's Tale. The Handmaid's Tale. I thought this past episode was going to be its final episode. It is not. It was not. There are 2 more episodes to go. And when I tell you, if you have watched this at all, you've been waiting for some bad shit to happen to the bad people, to happen to the bad guys in this show. It's about to go down. Um, it's a great show. It really is a great show. It's frustrating sometimes because of the writers, but overall, I would say the writers they kind of did their thing. I kind of like where it is right now. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. Just check it out yourself if you're going to. And last but not least, we have this this category, this dumbest comments of the week is going to be tough because there's so many stupid things that Donald Trump says um, on a daily basis, let alone on a weekly basis. But I think at the very, very bottom of the barrel of his stupidity was his comment about groceries. Where I don't know where he got the idea that groceries is an antiquated, old fashioned word that nobody uses. This is the sort of thing that somebody who has never gone grocery shopping in their life says. This is somebody who is not connected to any real people who do their own grocery shopping. Think about that. You do your own grocery shopping, whether it's at ShopRite or Pathmark, uh, the Piggly Wiggly, um, Winn Dixie, Whole Foods, wherever it is that you go, Trader Joe's, wherever it is that you go for your shopping, Associated, you know. Uh, Smila J says, we call them vittles now or foodstuffs. Yeah, indeed. It doesn't make any sense. Oh, Ralph's is another one. I've heard of Ralph's. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me that this guy is going off on the tangent about groceries the same way he does that thing with Hannibal Lecter or the sharks or whatever. And the back of my mind, I feel like this is like the three-card Monty. Like he's getting us to focus on groceries for some reason. I don't know why, because the price of groceries is not down. It is up. It is up, as are the prices of gas. I noticed the gas prices. I was driving with my wife this past week, and a week ago, literally a week ago, and then just 2 or 3 days ago, and the price actually was good. It was good. I wasn't going to complain. But then just 2 or 3 days ago, I looked at the gas and it shot up like 35 or 40 cents. I was like, what the actual fuck just happened? Because he's in the Middle East now. He's making good noises. He's saying like deals are being made. It's bullshit, but he's saying that. He's saying that deals are being made. Why is the gas jumped up like 30 or 40 cents? That's crazy. I don't know what that means. Usually when that happens, it's like there's a war going on between, some of the major states out there, countries. Anyway, so his stupidest comment, I'm going to play it for you now.
Jobs, because to me the most important jobs, I want jobs, and we have costs are way down. Groceries are where they have a term grocery. It's an old term, but it means basically what you're buying. Food, it's a pretty accurate term, but it's an old-fashioned sound. But groceries are down, costs are down, eggs are down. They were first week they were hitting me with eggs were up 200%. And now they're down to a number that is amazing. We're down 97, 98% from where they were. And everybody, they said, you won't have eggs for Easter. Well, we had everybody had eggs for Easter at a very reasonable price. At the White House, we had our little Easter egg roll, and we had hundreds of thousands of eggs purchased. They said, you have to go out and buy plastic eggs. That didn't work out.
You cannot you will never convince me that uh, when you say some prices are reasonable, that you know what the fuck you're talking about, because you think groceries are an old fashioned is an old fashioned word. So you have no connection to what real is, what real people spend on groceries. He really needs to shut the fuck up about, what's reasonable and, what's affordable. He is not the one to be talking about that stuff. Lori B says $4.99 in Massachusetts. I had wanted to do a graphic for today's show, but I ran out of time. And I had it mapped out here, right? I don't know if you guys can see that. So on the far left, I have pre-COVID at $20, COVID at $40, Biden at $50, and then Trump tariff at $75, and then post tariff at $60. Okay, so let's start. Let's start off pre-COVID. Let's say the price of some type of good was $20, right? Pre-COVID, right? And then COVID came, and that's when the manufacturers and the retailers jacked everything up. So COVID doubled everything in price, and they were saying supply chains, that's why we need the prices to go up. And we were like, oh, okay, what are we going to do? We're at the mercy of the people who are setting these prices. And the reason I came up with this little thing is because I heard Howard Lutnick talking about, he says it's bull. He doesn't believe that the consumer pays for the tariffs. And I keep, the more I hear this, it makes me feel like the retailers, the wholesalers, the people who are selling us these products, that they actually can lower prices to whatever the hell they want to lower them to if they choose, right? So getting back to this, right? Then after COVID, prices continued, as you know, continued to go up. When Biden was in office and COVID was finished, the supply chain was repaired, but the fucking prices still kept going up, right? Why? Completely arbitrary. The cost of we just went up. So now we have an unnecessary price spike caused by Trump's tariffs, going up from 50 under Biden to now, I'm saying hypothetically, 75 under Trump, right? So after he finishes having his good old time with the tariffs, right? Prices are expected to come back down. But they're not coming back down to pre-COVID. They're not coming back down to $20. Likely they'll come down to something like $60 instead of the 75 that it is today. So today you're paying 75 for something. It's going to come down to $60 and you're going to be like, "Oh, that's great." But it's not great because it's up from the 50 that it was with Biden, and it's up from the 40 that it was with COVID, and it's up from the $20 that it was pre-COVID. Why did it come? It's the same goddamn thing. It's the same product that we were paying $20 for. Now, post tariff, we're going to pay $60. We're going to pay 3 times because some greedy billionaire somewhere decided that he hasn't squeezed enough profit out of us yet. He hasn't arbitrarily jacked that price up enough. That's what we're facing. We are at the mercy of these millionaires and billionaires that are playing this game, and Donald Trump and the Republicans are helping them. They are helping them. When Kamala Harris said she wanted to instill some laws against price gouging, they were like, "Ha, you're a communist." But that is what we need. That's what we need. That's what we need to stop these greedy motherfuckers from charging us whatever the hell they want to charge us. Who's going to stop them? Donald Trump and the Republicans, they want to cut our essential services. They want to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security so that the Elon Musks and Bill Gates of the world can have another super yacht and another private jet. That's it. They are looking for trillions to cut. You can't cut trillions unless you cut from those essential services that people's mothers, grandparents, relatives, that old folks desperately need, that poor folks need to survive. Just so people who have more wealth than they know what to do with can have even more of it. It is obscene and it's sick, and it makes me fucking mad that these goddamn Republicans, when you engage with them online, they act like, "Oh, you're crying much? Huh? Cry more." Dude, this is not a partisan issue. It's not partisan. Poverty is not partisan. Catastrophic medical issues that happen to your family, that's not partisan. Cancer is not partisan. when that shit happens, you got some bills, and you better have some good insurance, medical insurance that's going to pay for it. Yeah. So that right there, that's a lot of heaped up frustration from dealing with idiots online. And we have a serious battle to fight, and you can only fight it a day at a time. But that's what I'm focused on right now. I'm focused on saving Medicaid, not for myself, because like I said, I'm not on Medicaid, but everybody who's, I'm fighting for those people in the red states and in the blue states. There's people who are Trumpers, the people who don't pay attention to politics, the people who don't even know how bad shit will get if Republicans have their way. So I hope you guys will help me spread the word. Once again, and reach out. Seriously, call your representatives. Take you 5-10 minutes. Call them and tell them, don't let this happen. And folks, thank you once again very much for joining me for another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Just a reminder that Storytime next week will not be on Friday. It will be on Thursday. Same time, same place. I love you all. Peace.